As a lifelong traveler and snowboarder, Zermatt had been on my radar for years. It's such a unique and amazing place. The scale and the beauty of the surroundings, the charm of the village, and the incredible array of experiences make it an irresistible destination. I loved my time there, but the ski area is vast and can be a bit confusing. Of course, Switzerland has a well-deserved reputation for being a bit pricey, so how can you go to Zermatt and experience what it has to offer without rapidly draining your bank account? Stay tuned and I'll help you figure out how to get there, give you an orientation of the town and the ski resort, suggestions on where to stay, how to get into the mountains, and share some hints on how to maximize your experiences and minimize your expenses. First, the logistics of how to get there and where to stay. The village and resort of Zermatt is located in the Swiss Alps on the border with Italy, relatively close to France. My most recent visit, I flew into Zurich and took the easy rail connection from the airport to the train station in Zermatt. Every rail journey to Zermatt will require at least one connection, most likely in the town of Visp, where you can switch to a train that's cog rail equipped in order to make the steep journey up the foothills of the Alps. Purchase your tickets before boarding, either at a kiosk or online, and ideally a few days before to get a lower price. Conductors on trains are very knowledgeable and will happily let you know how to negotiate any connections you might have. Swiss trains also have luggage racks in most of the cars, so if you're toting your ski gear, there will be a place to stow it. The total journey from Zurich Airport to Zermatt is about 3.5 hours. If you purchase your ticket at least a few days ahead, you can save quite a bit by getting a Saver Day Pass, which is a pass allowing you to take almost any normal train in Switzerland. Another money saver is to buy your food and drink at the station before boarding the train to save a bit on costs. Once you arrive in Zermatt, the train station has a helpful ticketing office, as well as pay lockers and free public toilets available on its lower level. The train station is also the transport hub for the town, and it's easy to catch a bus or get a taxi from there. Many hotels also have their own taxis to ferry their guests to and from the property. Similar rail connections to Zermatt exist for Geneva and Milan-Malpensa airports as well, but the large number of flights into Zurich, as well as the ease of the transfer, speed, and the frequency of connections made that my preferred choice. I also visited Zermatt a few years ago as part of a larger driving trip through the region. If you're in a car, keep in mind that you cannot drive all the way to Zermatt. Personal vehicles are not allowed in the village, and any vehicles operated in the village must be electric. So you'll need to park your car in the nearby town of Tasch, then take the train or a taxi the last 15 minutes up to Zermatt. There's many parking lots and taxi services in Tasch, but especially if you're coming during peak season, I'd advise making a parking reservation online in advance. So, where to stay? The village of Zermatt is nestled in a narrow valley surrounded by steep mountains. It's roughly oriented in a straight line running north to south and stretches for about 2.5 kilometers. The train station, or Bahnhof, an arrival point for taxis from Tasch, is in the northern part of the village. Although electric taxis and public buses are available, if you're reasonably fit, the entire village is walkable. But if you're going to be carrying ski equipment and walking in ski boots, you might prioritize staying closer to one of the base lifts in order to avoid having to take a bus or taxi. There's also ski shops near the lift bases where you can rent lockers by the day or week to store your boots and gear so you don't have to carry it to and from your accommodations. Being a snowboarder with comfortable boots, walking for me wasn't really a problem, so I didn't end up taking any buses or taxis during my entire visit. Since you're probably coming to Zermatt to ski, snowboard, or hike in the mountains, easy access up the mountains is likely a high priority, and there's 3 transport options for getting from the village up into the alpine areas. They are the Gornergrat Railway, which begins right across the street from the main train station, the Sunnegga Funicular, which is about a 6 to 8 minute walk downhill from the train station, and the Klein Matterhorn, or Matterhorn Express, is a multi-stage gondola at the southern end of the village. Which one should you stay closest to? Well, that depends a lot on your ski preferences, what kinds of accommodations you prefer, and what you plan on doing when you're not on the slopes. For me, I went to Zermatt to snowboard and to hang out with family, so my top priorities were lift access, comfort, and space. Views were important, and we wanted to stay in an actual apartment with a kitchen that had multiple bedrooms. So given this, we stayed in Winkelmatten, which is in the southern part of Zermatt, close to the Klein Matterhorn or Matterhorn Express gondola. Most places in this neighborhood have a straight-on Matterhorn view, and most buildings tend to be residential apartments instead of hotels. There's not as many restaurants and very few bars in this area, but it is only about a 10 to 15 minute walk to get to the heart of the tourist area. This area is also a decent uphill walk from both the main train station and from the Matterhorn Express lift. So if you're mobility impaired, then staying in this area is probably not the best idea unless you don't mind paying for taxis or waiting for the bus. The area closer to the train station is in the heart of the action. Most accommodation in this area will be guest houses and hotels. Matterhorn views are harder to come by, but access to transportation, restaurants, and nightlife is much better. Especially if you don't want to walk much or carry ski equipment too far, the closer you could stay to the train station, the better. But of course, the trade-off to staying in this area is much more noise, crowds, activity, and likely smaller sized accommodations. Each person's perfect place to stay will be different depending on their activity level, how much space they desire, what kind of views they prefer, and if they want to stay in an apartment or a hotel, and if they're preparing most of their own meals or dining out most of the time. Regardless of where you choose to stay, the entire village is a delight. It's picture perfect and truly an archetype of what all newer ski villages around the world have attempted to replicate. It's wonderful to wander the village and admire the mix of ancient and new and how it's all been adapted to the steep confines of the valley. The bulk of the shops and restaurants stretch out along the main pedestrian street called the Bahnhofstrasse, or Train Street, originating at the train station. An especially atmospheric and historic part of Zermatt is just off the Bahnhofstrasse. It's the old part of the village called the Hinterdorf, or rear village. This is a grouping of barns, storehouses, stables, and houses in the area that are all between 300 and 500 years old. All the old buildings are built from larch, a local species of tree that's particularly weather resistant. Most of these ancient structures were cleverly built on stilts with large circular stones at the cap of the stilt to make it impossible for mice to climb up. Once you've arrived in Zermatt and settled into your place to stay, how do you get up to the mountains? As I mentioned before, besides hiking, there's 3 options for heading up the slopes. And please note, all 3 of these are available for sightseeing, meaning not skiing or snowboarding, passengers as well. However, it's significantly cheaper to use these lifts with a ski ticket than by purchasing individual sightseeing rides. For example, a single Zermatt Matterhorn Glacier Paradise return trip for sightseers actually costs more than an all-day unlimited ski pass. Back to the 3 transport options up from the village. The first of these is the Gornergrat Railway, whose terminal is right across the street from the main train station. This is the slowest but the most comfortable way to get up the mountain. It takes about 33 minutes to rise the 1,400 or so vertical meters all the way up to the Gornergrat Plateau, where there's a hotel, restaurant, and a spectacular observation deck. And of course, ski runs, or pistes as they are referred to in Europe. But you can get off at any of the 4 stops along the way, like Riffelberg, which gives you access to a number of other ski lifts, or the next to the last station of Rottenboden, where non-skiers can ride toboggans back down to Riffelberg. The Sunnegga Funicular is only about a 6 to 8 minute walk downhill from the village train station. This is a very fast way to get up the mountain, and it only takes 3 minutes to go the almost 700 meter vertical rise, where it then deposits you at the Sunnegga station, giving you access to a number of lifts, trams, and a beginner ski area. The third option is the Klein Matterhorn or Matterhorn Express multi-stage gondola located in the southern end of the village. This lift has a number of options going from it. You'll start at the base, and then the first station 5 minutes later is Vrony, where you can choose to just remain on board or get out and transfer to the Vrony Riffelberg gondola, which will take you up to the Gornergrat area. If you're staying in this end of the village, this option is by far the fastest way for you to get to Gornergrat. If you remain on board the Klein Matterhorn gondola at Vrony, you'll then pass a series of other midpoint stations. The first of these is Affordably, which is for boarding only, for people who have skied down to this point, so don't get out here. Chez Vrony is about 8 minutes past Vrony, which gives you access to intermediate and advanced runs on the Hurley chairlift, which is actually right on the base of the Matterhorn. Vrony, which is located in a valley down from Chez Vrony, so it's a better point to board at rather than disembark from. The final station on the gondola is Trocnersteg, which is an additional 8 minutes past Chez Vrony. From here you can either ski down or transfer yet to even higher lifts, the Glacier Paradise gondola or the Vrgsetal chairlift. If you also ride the 8 minutes further up the Glacier Paradise gondola, you'll have gone 2,279 meters in vertical rise from the village. This is the highest gondola station in Europe, and yes, it is over 400 meters higher than the so-called top of Europe, the Jungfraujoch in Interlaken, which actually costs even more to go up. So even if you don't ski or snowboard, forget that tourist trap. Go to the Matterhorn Glacier Paradise instead. There's quite a few things to see and do at the top, including a viewing platform, a restaurant, and of course the Glacier Paradise ice caves. The Sunnegga and Gornergrat areas do have more beginner terrain than the Klein Matterhorn area, but if you're a solid intermediate, any of these three areas will provide ample riding opportunities amongst the jaw-dropping scenery. In fact, you'll often find it difficult to pay attention to the run in front of you because of the incredible scenery surrounding you. I found the varied modes of ways to get up the mountain to really add to the fun of Zermatt. Especially if you're there for multiple days, be sure to try them all. I was a hardcore snowboarder who generally sticks to the fastest way to go up, but I found the leisurely comfort of taking the Gornergrat train to be a really novel and refreshing break a few of the days on the slopes. There's your general orientation. So how can you travel to this pricey place and not bust your budget? If you'll be traveling to other parts of Switzerland as well, purchasing a half-fare train card from the Swiss National Rail will save you a significant amount of money on train travel. So be sure to check out the SBB site well before you arrive and figure out what your best options will be. Once you're in Zermatt, you can reduce or completely eliminate the cost and hassle of taking cabs and buses by just walking everywhere. But this requires you to pack light, choose a well-located property, and of course wear sensible footwear. Prices for accommodations in Zermatt run the gamut, from a budget hostel dormitory to palatial and historic grand hotels, with everything in between. And there's also a huge selection of Airbnbs as well. Keep in mind that renting an apartment with your own kitchen may cost you a bit more on your daily rate, but if you don't mind cooking a few meals for yourself, this will save you significant amounts of money. Restaurants both in the village and on the mountain are expensive. And any opportunity you can cook for yourself or purchase prepared meals at the grocery store will save you a lot of money. Migros and Co-op grocery stores are both close to the main train station and carry pretty much anything you could want for food. My typical flow on a ski day was to dine out once per day. So breakfast at the Airbnb, then either pack a lunch or dine out on an on-mountain restaurant, then do the opposite in the evening. Don't think for a minute that packing a lunch will give you a substandard experience. If you can wear a day pack while skiing, Co-op and Migros have mini grab-and-go sandwiches and salads that could easily be brought on the slopes as a picnic, and if the weather is cooperative, there are lots of amazing places to pull over and soak up the view while you eat. Another good case for wearing a backpack is that it enables you to carry a water bottle. Like most of Europe, there's no public drinking fountains at the ski resort, and overpriced water is sold by the tiny bottle. If you have an IKON Base or Base Plus pass, you can get 5 free days in the 2023-24 season. That rises to 7 free days if you have an unlimited IKON Pass. If you don't have an IKON Pass, purchase your lift tickets online at least a few weeks in advance to save a bit on the price. Multiple day tickets are the best deal, but overall, lift tickets are definitely cheaper at Zermatt than in US or Canadian resorts of even remotely comparable size. So a quick disclaimer, my angle focuses on how to see extraordinary places on a budget. Please don't take all the previous advice to encourage you to be a cheapskate and forego really special experiences just to save a little money. My hope is to enable those who might think a pricey town like Zermatt is beyond their means to still go, have a wonderful time, and not max out the credit cards in the process. But Zermatt definitely has some splurge-worthy experiences. Having lunch at one of the historic mountain restaurants is definitely one of these. My last visit, we had lunch at the legendary Chez Vrony, which was amazing. And in fact, it was so great, I made another whole video detailing that experience. Check it out if you're interested. Also, the Apres Ski or after ski scene in Zermatt is pretty boisterous. We made a stop at the Hinterdorf slopeside bar, which is just downhill from the Fury station on the Klein Matterhorn gondola, and it was quite the party. And to close, some hints to help you fully enjoy your experience in Zermatt. If you come in the winter and there's snow on the ground, you definitely need shoes or boots that you can walk reasonable distances on multiple surfaces. Cobblestones, stairs, steep hills, and icy slick pavement are the norm. Keep in mind, this is an international resort that draws crowds from all over Europe and the world. Riding up the lifts and the gondolas, we found people to be far less talkative than the gabby fellow riders in North America. Most generally kept to themselves, but were warm and happy to chat when you engage first. So don't hesitate to break the silence. I found the ability level of skiers here to be advanced and fast. Because most pistes are wide cruising runs, the speed many expert skiers and boarders ride at is such that you need to be very aware entering and exiting and merging runs. This is a great place to practice your ski safety etiquette by always looking uphill before starting, not turning in unpredictable ways, and not stopping in places which aren't clearly visible from above. I went during the first week of February, so it was high season, but not during a holiday period. There were hardly any lift lines at all. However, during the weekend days, there were a few short lines, and we were introduced to the lift line culture of Europe, which from what I can tell is a free-for-all. Just keep inching forward, fit into any open space, place your skis or board between the skis of the person in front of you, and keep sliding forward. I found the whole experience so curious. Switzerland is about the most orderly society on the planet, yet when it came to lift lines, it was absolute anarchy. No lifties running the lines, no ropes for queuing or separating groups by size, no alternating of groups, no singles lines. If I followed Swiss line protocol in the US or Canada, there'd be serious problems. However, don't be scared, there were 0 lines anywhere 95% of the time. Next, the categorization for run or piste difficulty is slightly different in Switzerland than it is in North America. You have 4 rather than 3 colors. A green circle or beginner run in North America is a blue in Switzerland. A blue square or intermediate run in North America is a red in Switzerland. And a black diamond or advanced or steeper run in North America and Switzerland would either be marked as a black if it was groomed daily or a yellow if it was never groomed. Of course, in North America you occasionally have double black diamonds, and these are usually so narrow or steep that they're never groomed either. So if they were in Europe, those would be marked as a yellow. When I visited, there was no new snow for the entire week, and no snow had fallen for at least a week prior. From what I hear, the Alps don't often get the powder dumps you can expect in the US and Canadian Rockies. Runs were hard-packed and power-tilled groomed. Most tended to be very wide and groomed to absolute perfection, so you'll likely not need your wide powder skis or swallowtail snowboard. Instead, bring those long cruisers or freestyle models. I also noticed far fewer snowboarders than I see at North American resorts. In my estimation, less than 10% of people on the slopes were snowboarding. I'm not sure why, because there's a lot of professional European snowboarders. I guess it's just the hard pack of the snow in this region probably just suits skiing more. Do you know why? Well, tell me your thoughts in the comments. Besides riding amongst historic buildings through charming villages and breathtaking vistas, one of the most unique and amazing things about Zermatt is how long the runs can be. If you go from the very top all the way down to the village, it will take you at least 20 minutes. You'll have descended well over 7,000 vertical feet and ridden 9 or more miles, depending upon the trail you take. When you combine this with the sublime scenery, it's truly an amazing experience to ride here. I absolutely love it. So I hope this unwinds a bit of the confusion you might have about this unique and special place. If you found this valuable, a like or subscribe really helps me out. And please don't hesitate to post your questions or comments.